She tilted her head to the side, like she always did when she was about to say something mean, and pretend it was a joke. "Oh my God, are you seriously still on medical leave?" I swear, Camille the Navy must give out those injury waivers like candy. You're basically getting paid to nap. Savannah laughed. My mom laughed too. I didn't. I just pressed the phone closer to my ear and took a sip of cold coffee that had been sitting out since morning. This wasn't the first time she'd said something like that. It wasn't even the worst. A few months ago, she told a group of our cousins that I'd probably faked some kind of stomach issue just to get out of combat duty. I served 2 tours overseas. One of them ended with me bleeding out behind the wheel of a burned-out Humvee, trying to radio in coordinates with a collapsed lung and half my vision gone. But to Savannah, I was the dramatic sister who loved attention. She didn't know about the 38 pieces of shrapnel they pulled out of me in Kandahar. She didn't care. She thought the word deployment was a cool filter to throw on Instagram. Meanwhile, I'd spent 6 months learning to walk without flinching when metal shifted inside my chest. I smiled politely on the video call. That's the uniform reaction they've trained us to give when someone throws crap at you in public. Smile, breathe, don't react. If you react, they win. Still recovering, yep, I said. We're monitoring some things. Monitoring your Netflix watch list. Savannah grinned, so pleased with herself. Savannah, I heard my mom chime in, don't be cruel. But she said it with the same tone people use to scold a cat for jumping on the table. Not real disapproval, not the kind of tone that actually stops anything. I logged off before I said something I'd regret. Then I opened my inbox and saw it, the family email thread. Subject line, Mom's 60th birthday bash. Let's make it big. Of course Savannah was organizing it. There was a Canva-designed invitation with glitter fonts and a guest list that included 50 names. Family neighbors, coworkers, her influencer friends, and some guy I dated for like 3 months in high school. Under RSVP instructions, it read, "Let us know if you're actually well enough to attend this time." That was her idea of being cute. I didn't RSVP, but I didn't delete the invitation either. Instead, I stood up, walked over to the bathroom mirror, and pulled my shirt off. I hadn't looked in a while, not really looked. My skin had healed, sure, but the jagged scars still ran like angry rivers across my side and shoulder. The ones they couldn't smooth out without risking nerve damage. The ones Savannah had never seen. The ones I'd learned to hide under regulation long-sleeve uniforms and quiet answers like just a training injury. My phone buzzed again. Another message in the group chat. "Camille, you better come. Mom really wants everyone there. And don't bring your medical drama, just good vibes, please." I stared at the screen. Then I walked to the kitchen and made the strongest cup of coffee I could stomach. People always talk about how military service teaches you discipline, resilience, leadership. They forget it also teaches you how to shut up and absorb casual cruelty without showing weakness. They don't talk about how many service members come home to families who have no idea what the hell they've been through and no interest in finding out. Here's the thing, Savannah wasn't always like this. When we were kids, we were actually close. She was the outgoing one, always getting the attention. I was the one who sat in corners drawing maps of imaginary places or memorizing codes from spy movies. She'd braid my hair when I had nightmares. I'd help her study for math tests because she swore numbers gave her panic attacks. But things changed. When I enlisted straight out of high school, Savannah rolled her eyes so hard she practically sprained something. She was applying to media schools in New York. She said I was giving up on a real future. She told people I joined the Navy because I didn't have the GPA to do anything else. She loved to tell that story. Still does. And maybe it would have stung less if she'd been the only one saying it. But the truth is, my parents never said much in my defense. They thought Savannah was funny, confident. She lit up a room. I followed the rules. I was steady. Whatever that means. Even when I came back from my second deployment with a Purple Heart and a back full of surgical staples, the only thing my mom said was, "We're just glad it wasn't worse." Then she asked if I could help pay Savannah's car insurance since I was getting a military bonus and all. You think I'm making this up? I wish I was. Anyway, I didn't tear up the invitation. I printed it out and stuck it on my fridge with a magnet shaped like an anchor. It stared at me every day when I opened the door to grab my protein shake or stick my heating pad in the microwave. I told myself I wasn't going. I had no reason to be there. But then I thought about Savannah's voice. Getting paid to nap. Medical drama. Actually well enough to attend this time. I looked back at the mirror. I looked at the scars. Then I picked up my phone and RSVP'd. Yes. Sometimes silence isn't strength. Sometimes it's surrender. And I was done surrendering. By the way, if you've ever had someone in your family dismiss what you're going through, leave a comment. I want to know I'm not the only one. And hey, subscribe if you're into stories that hit way too close to home. The flight wasn't bad. I booked it with my own money flu coach, like always. Didn't tell anyone I was coming until I landed. I didn't want to give them time to spin a new narrative. The second I walked through the door, Savannah's jaw literally dropped. I was wearing jeans and a plain shirt. No makeup, hair tied back, and still she looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" she said. "Didn't you invite me?" I asked. Or was that part of the joke? She tried to recover, smiled too wide, hugged me in that fake way people do when they know they should but don't want to. I didn't hug back. She smelled like vanilla body spray and something fake underneath it. "Mom's gonna flip," she said. "Can't wait," I replied. I walked in, calm, collected. Let them smile, let them talk, let them believe I was the same Camille who took every jab and kept her mouth shut. They were going to find out I wasn't that version anymore. Not even close. I didn't sleep at the hotel. Not really. I lay in bed half-dressed, the TV on mute, watching the subtitles of a late-night cooking show I didn't care about. My phone buzzed twice, one message from Mom, one from Savannah. I didn't open either. They could sit in silence for once. By 4:30 a.m., I was sitting on the edge of the bed with a lukewarm protein bar in one hand and a file folder in the other. I didn't usually carry it with me, but something told me I'd need it on this trip. Inside were printouts of my CT scans, discharge summaries, surgical reports, and a photo. Just one. It was taken the day after my first operation. I was still unconscious, tubes in my chest, bandages from my clavicle to my waist. I looked like I'd been sewn back together by a drunk mechanic. Technically, I shouldn't be here, not just here in this hotel room, but alive. The convoy had been making a supply run to a forward operating base outside Kandahar. 6 vehicles. I was second in line. It was routine, boring even. We'd done that route so many times, no one even flinched at the open terrain anymore. Then everything turned white. The first IED took out the lead vehicle. The second hit ours as we tried to maneuver. The third, there was a third, was rigged to catch anyone who survived the first 2. I remember the sound more than the pain. This cracking, ripping noise that didn't seem human. My ribs went first. Then something sharp sliced through my lower back. I was thrown sideways, slammed into the side door, and blacked out for a minute, or an hour, or a year. I honestly don't know. When I came to, all I could taste was metal. My throat was filled with smoke and blood. I tried to yell, but all that came out was a wheeze. I could hear someone screaming. I thought it was me. Later, they told me it wasn't. It was Private Ellis. He didn't make it. Somehow, I pulled myself out of the wreckage, crawled far enough away that I didn't get caught in the secondary blasts. I don't remember doing it. The medics found me face down in the dirt, unconscious, still clutching the radio handset. There was no signal. At the hospital in Germany, I woke up strapped to a bed, chest bandaged, lungs, collapsed shoulder, reconstructed. I had more tubes in me than a science fair project. The doctor said, "You're lucky." I couldn't even lift my hand to flip him off. They removed 38 pieces of shrapnel over the course of 2 weeks. Left 9. The 9 too risky to go after. 3 were nestled between arteries. 1 was behind my left lung. 2 were floating near my spine. The others, well, they'd just left them. Souvenirs. They told me I had 2 choices. Take medical retirement or start the longest rehab process they'd seen in years. I chose the second. Not because I'm brave, because I'm stubborn. It took months to stand up without assistance. I had to relearn how to balance because my center of gravity had shifted from all the internal damage. The first time I passed out in the middle of a grocery store, I laughed on the floor. The manager didn't find it funny. Through all of it, I didn't tell my family the details. They got the sanitized version. Camille was hurt, but she's recovering. No one asked much more. I didn't offer. It's easier that way. The truth, I didn't want their pity, and I damn sure didn't want their opinions. Especially not Savannah's. She had posted a photo the week I got out of surgery. A bikini shot on some beach captioned, "Sun's out, scars out." With a little laughing emoji, no clue. None. Back home, no one said anything stupid to my face. But I could see it in the way they looked at me. Like I was fragile now. Like I'd gone from being the tough sister to the damaged one. So I played the part they gave me. Quiet, compliant, just happy to be alive. But I wasn't. Not really. At some point, surviving stopped feeling like a gift and started feeling like a debt. One I couldn't pay back. Not to Ellis, not to the others who didn't make it, not to the version of myself that used to walk into a room like she belonged in it. The military taught me how to follow orders. The explosion taught me how to keep breathing. But it was the silence afterward that taught me how to disappear without dying. I came back to active duty 6 months after they told me I'd probably never wear a uniform again. I passed my fitness test. I filed my paperwork. I requalified on my weapon. And every time I had a flare-up pain, vertigo, migraines, I went to medical like I was supposed to. Every time I got that look, you know the one, the "she looks fine to me" look. It was the same look Savannah gave me when I told her I couldn't help her move apartments because of a medical thing. She made a face like I was dodging her on purpose, said must be nice having a built-in excuse. She didn't know. She didn't care. Until now, I closed the file folder and slid it back into my duffel. My alarm buzzed, even though I'd never gone to sleep. I stood, stretched, and ran a hand over the faded scar beneath my collarbone. My body knew what was coming, not danger worse. Family. I zipped up my uniform jacket. Not the navy one, just a plain black one. Civilian, but strong. Functional. The kind of thing that didn't scream, "Look at me," but wouldn't apologize for being there either. I wasn't showing up to fight. I was showing up to be seen. The guy at the front desk handed me a rideshare voucher and tried to make conversation while printing it, but I gave him the kind of nod that says, "Don't." He stopped. Good man. Outside, the wind cut sharp, that pre-rain kind of chill that makes you zip your jacket without thinking. I stood on the curb, waiting for the car, watching families check out of the hotel, tourists in matching sweatshirts, kids half awake. I wondered what it was like to travel with people who actually liked having you around. The driver pulled up. A woman around 60, with silver hair tied back in a braid, and a steaming travel mug wedged in the cup holder. "Camille," she asked. I nodded. She didn't ask any small-talk questions. Didn't tell me to enjoy my day. Just drove with the calm silence of someone who'd seen enough of other people's messes to know better than to poke at them. I liked her instantly. The house was already packed when we pulled up. Balloons on the mailbox valet in the driveway. Savannah never did anything without performance. As I stepped out of the car, I spotted a banner across the porch that read, "Cheers to 60 years. Celebrate Shirley in style." Of course, she branded my mother's birthday like a product launch. Inside, I was greeted by a living room that looked more like a Pinterest board exploded. Champagne tower, floral arrangements in coordinated colors. A dessert table labeled "Sweet Memories" in cursive lettering. I barely recognized my mother's house. She hated clutter. But now it was staged like a bridal shower for an Instagram influencer, which I suppose was accurate. Savannah found me before I had a chance to vanish into a quiet corner. "Look who showed up," she beamed. And here I thought the stress of being appreciated might trigger a migraine. I didn't rise to it. "You throw this together yourself?" I asked. She flipped her hair. "With help, obviously. It's called delegation." I scanned the room. At least 5 ring lights were set up in different corners. She was planning content capture. Not a birthday. My mother walked in wearing a peach dress and more makeup than I'd ever seen on her. She looked startled to see me, like I wasn't part of the script. Her eyes widened for a second, then she smiled, and I realized it wasn't for me, it was for the camera behind me. "Camille, sweetie." "I didn't know you were coming after all," she said. "You sent me an invitation." "Well, yes, but you never RSVP'd. I could have said yes, I did, but it didn't matter. Not really. She hadn't expected me to come. Savannah hadn't wanted me to come. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was the family variable nobody knew how to caption. I'm here now, I said. Well, good. Join us in the kitchen. Everyone's doing introductions. Introductions. To family. I followed mostly because I didn't feel like standing alone in a room of strangers, who weren't actually strangers, just relatives I hadn't seen since pre-injury. Back when I still had both a normal gait and a shred of patience. Inside the kitchen, a ring of people stood clapping politely as Savannah handed out little awards. Most helpful cousin, best RSVP, cutest throwback pic. It was like a family reunion meets high school superlatives. And then she handed one to me. Best excuse to skip things, she announced. Everyone laughed, except Uncle Ben. He froze with a paper plate in one hand and just stared at Savannah like she'd grown horns. I looked at the card. It was laminated. She'd printed it in advance. Planned the joke. I handed it back to her without a word. Oh, come on, she chirped. You do have the best excuses. Can't lift this, can't walk there, can't commit to plans because, oh no, the Navy might need me to fill out more paperwork. That one got a big laugh. I could feel my molars grinding together. My shoulder throbbed like a warning flare. I turned to my mother. You okay with this? She blinked like she didn't understand the question. It's just playful. Don't take everything so seriously. I let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. I got blown off the side of a military vehicle. I spent 7 months relearning how to stand. I have 6 pieces of metal still inside me, and a lung that works at 80%. Forgive me if I'm not in the mood for laminated sarcasm. The room went silent, like lights out silent. Savannah's face flushed, her mouth opened then shut. And then, without another word, I left the kitchen and walked out the sliding glass doors onto the back patio. I needed air, or distance, or both. Out there, a few people mingled by the fire pit, holding flutes of pink champagne. No one said anything as I passed. I sat at the far edge of the garden on a bench half hidden by hedges, pulled out my phone, opened my photos, not to scroll, just to look at the locked folder with the image I never showed anyone, the one from Germany, the one where I was unconscious and covered in surgical tubes, the one that would shut Savannah up in a second. But I didn't post it, I didn't text it, I didn't show it to anyone, because showing it would be for them. And I wasn't here for them anymore. Someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Uncle Ben. He didn't say anything, just held out a folded piece of paper. She made these last week, he said. Thought you should know. Inside was a list Savannah's speech ideas for Mom's party. It had 5 bullet points. Number 4, roast Camille, a little keep it light. Ben said, you want me to say something? I shook my head. No, I said, not yet. I stood and brushed my hands together like I was wiping off something sticky. Then I straightened my jacket, turned back toward the patio doors, and walked inside. The doors slid shut behind me like a seal, and the warmth inside hit harder than I expected. Or maybe it was the heat of everyone pretending they hadn't just watched a grown woman humiliate her sister in front of a room full of blood relatives and gluten-free cupcakes. I didn't make a scene. I never do. I just walked back in and grabbed a glass of water. Not wine, not champagne. Just something to keep my hands busy while I stood in a kitchen full of people who'd laughed with Savannah 2 minutes ago, and now weren't sure if they were supposed to feel bad about it. I could feel eyes on me flicking up and down like I'd become a live tabloid headline. And Savannah, God help her, was already recovering. She popped into the room like nothing had happened, voice sugary, arms wide. Okay, let's reset. I think we're getting a little too serious, huh? Nobody answered. Come on, it's a party, she insisted. Not a therapy circle. Then she did it. She pulled out her phone, walked to the Bluetooth speaker, and played an audio clip. One I hadn't heard in years. It was me, recorded on an old voicemail. Weak, out of breath, my voice shredded from painkillers and trauma. Hey, it's me. Just wanted to say I'm okay. I think. I don't know, tell Mom I'm okay. She'd saved that voicemail, then edited it into a loop, then played it for strangers. Remember when you left me that she laughed? I thought you were just being dramatic, like Oscar-worthy. A few people chuckled. That's when I set the glass down. Not slammed it, not threw it, just placed it. Carefully, like it was about to explode. I didn't send that voicemail to you, I said. Savannah blinked. Well, yeah, Mom forwarded it. You know how she is. You weren't even on my call list. Okay, wow, sensitive much. I took 2 steps forward. You took a message I left after being pulled out of a wreckage, when I didn't know if I had 2 working lungs, and you made it a punchline. It's a joke, Camille. You have got to stop acting like you're the only one allowed to tell a story in this family. This isn't a story, it's my life. She rolled her eyes like that word life was something she had trademarked. God, you're so exhausting. Not as exhausting as constantly defending myself to someone who thinks empathy is optional. Maybe if you were honest about what's actually wrong with you, people wouldn't think you're faking it. That's when I pulled my jacket zipper down halfway and peeled back the collar of my shirt. I didn't rush it. Didn't look away. Just pulled the fabric aside, revealing the scar that ran from my clavicle down across my shoulder and into the ridge of my back. It was thick, uneven, livid in color even after all this time. The room went still. A couple guests turned away politely, like they were seeing something they didn't deserve to witness. Others leaned in, not in curiosity, but shame. Savannah froze. It was the first time I'd ever seen her run out of words. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I kept going, unbuttoned the cuff of my sleeve, and rolled it back to show the smaller scars across my forearm. The ones that looked like someone had tried to staple my skin shut with crooked hands. These, I said, are not from yoga. These aren't paperwork injuries. These aren't emotional support bruises. They're from the inside panel of a blown-out Humvee door. And no matter how funny you think that sounds, they don't come off in the wash. She tried to speak again, but I wasn't finished. You want to mock my recovery. You want to roast me for not dancing at parties, or skipping baby showers, or forgetting to laugh at your jokes. Fine. But do it with full context. Do it after you've seen what I look like underneath the outfits you always say are so serious. No one moved, not even Mom. She looked pale, not angry, not sad, just blank. Like she'd finally realized she raised 2 daughters and only ever protected the one who never needed protection. I looked down at Savannah. She was still staring, like the scars had reprogrammed her brain in real time. I zipped up the jacket, then took a sip of water slow and steady, and walked over to the Bluetooth speaker. I tapped the stop button, held up her phone, then handed it to her. I suggest you delete that voicemail, because now everyone here knows what it really cost to leave it. I didn't wait for a response. Didn't need one. I turned toward the hallway, walking through that sea of stunned silence like it was nothing new, because it wasn't. What was new was not being the one who had to carry it alone. I didn't head for the front door. That would have looked too final. Too dramatic. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of thinking she'd driven me out. So I veered right down the hall toward the guest bathroom, locked the door, turned on the faucet just enough to drown out the outside noise. I leaned on the counter, stared at myself in the mirror, not to check my hair, not to collect myself, just to see if I still looked like someone who belonged in that house. I didn't. I looked like a woman who'd just peeled her skin back in a room full of people who'd never earned the right to see beneath it. And still I didn't regret it. Not a second of it. The bathroom smelled like fake lilac and cinnamon soap. Everything curated, sanitized, just like the version of our family Savannah liked to sell online. She'd built a world where I was the mysterious older sister with the Navy thing and occasional medical leaves. A blurry silhouette she could frame however she wanted. Until now they'd all seen what she worked so hard to hide. Not because it embarrassed her, because it threatened the clean little story she'd written Savannah the success, Camille the ghost. I splashed cold waters on my face, dried it with a monogrammed towel, then unlocked the door and stepped back into the hallway. The party noise was low now, muted, like someone had turned down the volume out of fear something real might happen again. I walked slowly through the kitchen, past the wine table, where 2 women pretended to be deep in conversation about charcuterie. Their eyes flicked toward me, and then away like I was radioactive. I didn't care. I found Mom near the fireplace. She was staring into the flames like they were giving her moral clarity. When I stopped beside her, she startled like I'd broken a spell. She said nothing. I waited. Still nothing. So I said it for her. You're not going to ask if I'm okay. She turned to me, eyes wet but still somehow defensive. You shouldn't have done that, Camille. Done what existed or shown what that existence actually looks like. Her lips tightened. This was supposed to be a celebration. For you, or for Savannah's Instagram feed, her jaw clenched. You know she puts a lot of effort into these things. That's not effort. That's performance. There's a difference. She looked at the floor. Then she said she was just trying to include you. I laughed a short, humorless bark. Include me? She gave me a laminated award for being the family excuse machine, then played a voicemail from when I didn't know if I was going to live. That's not inclusion. That's cruelty in a party dress. Mom winced, but still didn't apologize. That was her way. Let things happen, then smooth the dirt over like nothing had ever been planted. I didn't know she was going to do all that she said quietly. But you didn't stop her when she did. We stood there for a few more seconds staring into a fire that wasn't ours. Then she asked, "Why didn't you tell us how bad it really was?" I looked at her. Really looked. You think I didn't try? You think I didn't want to? Every time I opened my mouth, Savannah rolled her eyes, and you changed the subject. After a while, it stopped being worth the breath. She looked like she wanted to deny it, but she couldn't. Not anymore. Across the room, Savannah stood by the dessert table, shoulder stiff, smile gone. One of her friends tried to hand her a flute of champagne. She waved it off. Guess it didn't go with the brand today. Uncle Ben caught my eye from the corner and gave me a nod. That quiet kind of nod older men give when they can't say what they really think because the walls have ears. I walked over to the side hallway to grab my coat. A cousin I hadn't seen since middle school stepped in front of me. "Hey!" she said, eyes wide. I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard stuff, but I held up a hand. "It's fine." "No, it's not," she said, voice firm. "But thank you for showing it, for saying something." I didn't reply, just nodded and kept walking. Another woman approached me, Savannah's old college roommate, I think. She didn't say anything, just placed a hand lightly on my arm, then walked away. Funny how fast the tone shifts when people are forced to see reality up close. It's one thing to joke about someone being fragile when they keep quiet. Another when they unzip their silence and show you the metal underneath. By the time I reached the entryway, Savannah was already there, waiting. "You know," she said, arms crossed, "you didn't have to humiliate me." I looked at her steady. "You humiliated yourself. I just stopped letting you do it to me." She scoffed. "You think you're the only one who's been through stuff I have pressure too. Expectations. People looking at everything I do. You chose that." She hesitated. "I didn't choose the Navy," I added. "But I chose to keep going when it almost killed me. And I damn sure didn't choose to come home to a sister who turned my trauma into party material." Savannah's eyes flashed like she wanted to bite back, but nothing came. She wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't apologize for breathing. "You embarrassed Mom," she said weakly. "No, you embarrassed her. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." And with that, I opened the door and stepped outside. No one followed. The air outside had cooled that heavy quiet after a long storm. I didn't rush down the porch steps. My hands were calm. My breath was steady. My boots hit the walkway with the kind of grounded weight you only earn by dragging yourself back from places no one else saw. A few guests were still outside, gathered in hushed clusters, like whatever just happened might still be unfolding. I didn't give them anything to read. Just walked past down the driveway and toward the edge of the curb where my ride would meet me. It was funny. I'd spent years assuming that saying nothing was safer, that letting people think what they wanted protected me somehow. But all it had done was give Savannah the script, and I'd let her run the show. Until now, a black sedan slowed to a stop. Not a rideshare this time. Uncle Ben's truck pulled up right behind it. I didn't move. He stepped out, leaned on the doorframe like he wasn't going to say much unless I asked for it. "She say anything else?" he asked. "She tried," I said. But I think she ran out of adjectives that sound like compliments, but hit like bricks. He smirked, shook his head. "You handled it right." "That was right?" I asked. Damn right it was. He opened the passenger door. "Come on, let me drive you back." I didn't argue. Inside the truck, it smelled like old leather and sawdust. The kind of smell that reminded you someone worked with their hands for most of their life and never needed to advertise it. We drove in silence for a bit. The kind that doesn't press down on your chest, just fills the space between two people who understand when to shut up. At a red light, he glanced over. "You ever tell her about the mission?" I raised an eyebrow. "Which part, the blood?" The part where I tried to stop my own bleeding with a field map. Or maybe the bit where the Navy doc said it was a miracle I didn't bleed out in the sand. He grunted. All of it. No, she didn't ask. Of course not. The light turned green. He kept driving. You know what I think he said after a minute? Please, enlighten me. I think Savannah's the kind of person who can only feel important if someone else is small. And you were never small. You were quiet. And that scared the hell out of her. I didn't respond, but the words settled in a place that felt too familiar. We pulled into the hotel lot. He didn't park, just stayed in idle while I reached for the handle. Then he said, "You did more than most of them ever will. Don't let them shrink it because they can't measure up." I nodded once, got out. The lobby was quiet now. My room just as I'd left it, duffel bag half-zipped folder of records still tucked under the nightstand untouched. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the carpet. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even sad. I was done. Not in the dramatic sense. Not like storming out of a movie halfway through. Just done playing the role they wrote for me without my permission. The next morning, I didn't check my phone until I'd showered, packed, and set my boots side by side at the door. 17 unread messages, 5 from Mom. All different tones. Are you okay? You embarrassed your sister? Call me when you can. We need to talk. I just want peace. 8 from Savannah. All voice notes. I didn't listen to any of them. 2 from extended family, both variations of I had no idea. 1 from her fiancé. Yeah, the new guy. We'd never met. His said, "Hey, I don't really know what to say, but I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened. You deserve better." I saved that one. The final message was from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo. A screenshot of Savannah's social media story from last night. The caption read, "Not every scar is visible. Some people carry their strength where you can't see it." And underneath, a blurry photo of me, jacket zipped up again, standing in the corner of the kitchen near the fridge. From behind, just a silhouette. No tags, no mention of names, no apology. Just another story she could use, twist into something poetic. Redeem herself publicly without ever having to say the words out loud. But this time no one was clapping. I scrolled the comments. Wow, this is deep. Hope she's okay, whoever she is. Wait, is this about your sister? You're so strong, Savannah. That last one made me laugh. Not bitter, just tired. Because it never stopped with people like her. They'd weaponize your pain, then wear the ashes like war paint and call it self-awareness. But what she didn't realize was that she'd run out of script. I wasn't playing anymore. I closed the app, blocked her account, deleted the voicemail she left in the group thread where she'd tried to spin it into a sister moment gone wrong. Then I turned my phone off, packed my things, checked out at the front desk with a polite nod, and walked into the day without needing to explain where I was going. I wasn't back on base more than 48 hours before her voice found me again, just not how she planned. It was a Tuesday. I was halfway through reviewing a field med protocol update when my division lead, Chief Daniels, popped his head into my office and said, "Hey, Lieutenant, there's a civilian trying to reach you. Says it's a family emergency. You want me to send it to voicemail." That phrase, family emergency, used to snap my spine straight. Not anymore. "Let it roll," I said, without looking up. "If it's important, it'll find another way in." It did. By the end of the day, I had 2 emails, one flagged as urgent from Savannah's manager. Not her assistant, her manager. The one who used to field her brand deals and schedule her podcast interviews. The subject line, re-online backlash. "Savannah needs your help." I didn't open it. The next day it got louder. A news alert popped up on my phone while I was eating lunch outside the hospital wing. Some wellness brand Savannah had partnered with had pulled out of a sponsorship. The headline read, "Influencer slammed for mocking veteran sister in leaked family event clip." Leaked, like it hadn't been streamed live on her own account. The internet had finally caught up. Not because they cared about me, but because her curated image had cracked, and nothing draws clicks faster than a clean woman caught dirty. Apparently, someone at the party had screen recorded the moment she played the voicemail, then posted it, with commentary. The video racked up 500,000 views in 24 hours. And they didn't hold back. "This is disgusting. She humiliated her sister in public for likes." Imagine mocking a combat vet with PTSD for entertainment. Her career needs to end yesterday. And my personal favorite, this woman's whole brand is fake empathy. Here's the truth. It came with a stitched clip of Savannah's smiling face, followed by a freeze frame of me standing in the kitchen, arm half-raised, scar visible. No sound, just the visual. That was enough. I didn't share it. I didn't comment. I didn't even send it to anyone. But I watched it twice. Not for the validation. Just to remind myself that silence doesn't mean invisible. It just takes longer to echo. 2 days later, she finally reached out. First a text. Camille, I'm so sorry. Please call me. I need to explain. Then a second. Things are spiraling. It's bad. I never meant for it to go this way. And a third. They're saying I don't care about vets. That I faked everything. That I exploited you. That one made me stop. Not because it wasn't true, but because she finally said it out loud. I didn't reply. Not that day. Not even the day after. I had a 12-hour shift, followed by a late-night rotation check-in. By the time I got back to my quarters, I was too tired to care about trending hashtags or damage control. But I knew she wouldn't stop. And she didn't. By the end of the week, I had voicemails, emails, even a handwritten letter forwarded through our family's old P.O. box, pleading for me to make a statement. Not a real apology, not a phone call to ask what I needed. A request to clean up her mess. The letter said, if you could just post something that says you're okay with me, or that things are misunderstood, it would really help. Help her, she meant. She didn't ask what I wanted. Didn't offer to acknowledge the years she turned my silence into punchlines. Didn't say she'd finally listened. Just begged me to protect the one thing that mattered most to her reputation. I folded the letter in half, slid it into the back of the drawer, and poured myself a glass of water. Then I opened a blank email and typed, Savannah. I'm glad you're finally experiencing the weight of what I've carried for years. I hope it teaches you something. But no, I won't defend you. I won't explain away what you did, and I won't save you from consequences you built yourself. I survived more than one kind of battlefield. You don't get to drag me back into another. Camille. I didn't hit send. Not yet. Instead, I saved it in drafts. Because the truth was, I didn't need her to read it. I just needed to write it. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out my uniform blouse, the one I wore on deployment, and ran my fingers across the stitched nameplate. The fabric still smelled faintly of sand and sweat, like a time I didn't miss, but would never erase. Then I folded it gently, placed it back into the closet, and lay down. Outside, the world kept spinning. Online, she kept scrambling. But for the first time in years, I slept without clenching my jaw. The base chapel was empty, except for the janitor buffing the floors, and the faint sound of a choir track being rehearsed in a back room. I wasn't there for God. I was there for quiet. The kind you can't find in a barracks, or the mess, or even your own head. The kind you borrow from spaces built for grief and grace. I sat in the back row, hands in my lap, staring at the stained glass window of a woman carrying a torch across water. I'd seen it 100 times before, but never really looked at it. Now I saw it for what it was, a story about carrying light through chaos, not to guide others, but just to make it through yourself. My phone buzzed on the bench beside me. I let it go. Another buzz, and another. Eventually, I glanced at it. 3 missed calls. 1 voicemail, all from Savannah. This time I played it. Camille. I know you hate me right now. Maybe always have. But I'm drowning. I've lost 3 sponsors, 2 agencies dropped me, and Mom won't return my calls either. I know I was cruel. But you don't have to do anything. Just make it stop. Please. Just say something. Anything. Her voice cracked near the end. She wasn't used to begging. She was used to applause. That sharp drop from pedestal to pavement must have rattled her spine. But she still didn't say I'm sorry, not once. That mattered more than the rest. I deleted the voicemail. Then I stood, straightened my shoulders, and walked outside. The air smelled like rain-soaked concrete and cut grass. I started walking toward the field behind the admin wing. No destination, just space. I passed a group of junior enlisted sailors doing PT. One of them nodded at me, respectful but casual. Morning, ma'am. Morning, I said back. It hit me as I said it, how light my voice felt. I wasn't carrying her anymore. Not her needs, not her narrative, not her brand. For years I'd made myself smaller so she wouldn't feel threatened. Bit my tongue so our mother wouldn't have to choose sides. Absorbed every offhand insult, every backhanded joke, every eye-roll dismissal, like it was just part of the family atmosphere. But the air outside that chapel didn't belong to them. It belonged to me. So did the quiet. That night, I got a message request on my professional LinkedIn. Not from Savannah. From a journalist. One who covered military wellness and veterans advocacy. She'd seen the clip. Wanted to know if I was open to telling my side. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "No thank you. My life is not a counterpoint to someone else's PR crisis." And hit send. That reply felt better than 1,000 think pieces, because she didn't deserve a rebuttal. She deserved silence, the kind that closes doors, not invites conversation. A week passed, then another. No more messages, no more voicemails, no more middle-of-the-night apologies wrapped in self-preservation. Instead, I started getting messages from people who weren't trying to use me as a plot device. A former corpsman messaged me, "Ma'am, I saw what you did. I've got shrapnel in my hip. Haven't told my family the truth. Might now." A young Navy recruit sent, "My sister tells everyone I'm faking anxiety. I'm not. I didn't know other people went through this." One message said, "You didn't owe us that scar, but thank you for showing it anyway." I saved that one, not because I needed the validation, but because it reminded me why I stayed in uniform. It wasn't for the medals. I had one in a drawer I hadn't looked at since 2021. It wasn't for the paycheck. God knows civilian life would have paid better by now. It was because there's something sacred about quiet resilience, about protecting people who may never know your name, but sleep safer because you are somewhere in the background doing your job. It was about earning back a voice I didn't even realize I'd given away. One scar, one breath, one boundary at a time. I didn't need to confront Savannah again. I didn't need a final showdown or a made-for-TV reconciliation. What I needed was to stay the hell out of her orbit and keep walking. So that's what I did. I updated my emergency contact list, took her off, put a trusted colleague instead. I rerouted the family P.O. box to a legal service mailbox. No more surprise letters. I set my social media to private. Not because I was hiding, because I was finished performing. The next time someone tried to reach me with another media request, my inbox auto-replied with a simple sentence, "Thank you for your interest." I no longer share stories that involve people who never earned them. I got a few respect replies. A few we understand. No one pushed back. Turns out, silence works both ways. When you choose it for yourself, it becomes power, not erasure. And once you've earned your peace, you stop trading it for someone else's noise. I didn't expect to hear from her again. But narcissists don't like silence. They treat it like a threat, like punishment. So when the certified letter arrived at the Navy mail hub addressed to me with her handwriting overly neat, like a resume cover page, I didn't even blink. I opened it with the same energy I'd give to peeling off a barcode sticker. Inside a 2-page letter. Neatly typed. No greeting. Just a monologue. "I've been through hell the last few months," it began. Not you've, not we've, just I've. She listed the brand deals, lost the followers who turned the PR team that dropped her mid-apology tour. She mentioned how she was trying to rebuild, and that sharing our journey publicly might bring healing for both of us. Our journey, like it was a mutual vacation. She wrote maybe we could sit down and record something together. Just a conversation. Honest, candid. It doesn't even have to be emotional. Didn't have to be emotional. She wanted me to help her reframe her image, without the mess of actual accountability. At the bottom, she closed with, "Please think about it. We can do this in a way that protects us both. I promise." I folded the letter back into the envelope, walked it over to the shredder in the office supply closet, and let the blades hum until there was nothing left but strips of practiced sincerity. She didn't want healing. She wanted an edit button, and I wasn't giving her one. The next time she reached out, it was through Mom. Of course it was. An email showed up in my inbox from an old address I'd almost forgotten. Subject: family peace. Mom's message was short. Passive-aggressive, wrapped in concern. I know it's been hard for everyone, but holding on to resentment only leads to more pain. Savannah is trying. Maybe if you could meet her halfway. Halfway. Like she hadn't made a career out of dragging me into punchlines. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, because I was done playing hostage in someone else's redemption arc. A few weeks later, my unit hosted a promotion ceremony. Not mine, one of our junior officers, but I was asked to give the closing remarks. The kind that sum up what it means to serve quietly, consistently with integrity. So I talked about scars. Not mine, but the kind you earn by doing hard things when no one's watching. The kind that don't come with applause or followers. The kind that live under your uniform and in your muscle memory, and show up every time you choose not to quit. Afterward, a young corpsman came up to me and said, "Ma'am, that was the first time I heard someone talk about this stuff without trying to sound inspirational." I smiled. "Because pain isn't content," I said. "It's currency. You spend it or you waste it." That night, I got dinner with 2 other officers. No small talk about family, just steak sarcasm, and the kind of mutual respect that doesn't need a LinkedIn post to validate it. We raised glasses to surviving deployments. Bad leadership military grade, cafeteria food, and family nonsense. Mine had become a punchline they knew not to laugh at. Later that week, Savannah tried one last angle. She messaged a veterans non-profit I'd volunteered with and asked if she could do a collaboration event with them, something about bridging the civilian-military gap and supporting wounded women warriors. They forwarded it to me, asked if I was okay with it. I replied with one sentence, "Absolutely not." They never replied to her again. Sometimes you don't need revenge. You just need better gatekeepers. A month passed. Then another. The calls stopped. The headlines faded. She quietly turned her account private. I heard through a cousin that she moved to Arizona to start over. No job announcements, no new launches. Just a slow fade into normalcy. Or something that looked enough like it. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt distance, which was better. Distance was clean. Distance meant no more rehashing, no more explaining, no more defending my right to heal without asking permission from the person who fractured me in the first place. One night, I pulled out an old notebook I used to carry on deployments, flipped through pages of half-finished thoughts, dark humor inventory notes, sketches. At the back, there was a quote I'd scribbled after a mission in Syria. I didn't even remember writing it until that moment. Some wounds don't want closure. They just want space. I wrote under it in a clean, firm hand. I don't owe her an explanation. She owes me silence. Then I closed the book, sealed it in a drawer, and let it rest finally, without a lock. This wasn't revenge in the way people like to frame it. No grand takedown, no viral mic drop. Just boundaries. Clear, non-negotiable boundaries. And the quiet decision to walk away without ever looking back. Because sometimes the most powerful kind of family revenge is refusing to let them rewrite the story after they've torn out your pages. If you've ever been silenced, mocked, or dismissed by someone who was supposed to love you, especially in your own family, then you already know this story isn't just mine. It's one a lot of us carry. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel for more real stories about military life, family drama, and the quiet power of reclaiming your voice. You don't have to shout to be heard, but you do have to stop whispering.